All right, 2014 Chevy Express shock replacement. I'm gonna try to get that off. This is actually a brand new shock. I used the original washers that came with the old shock, but on the bottom, they're rattling. They're too big for the little washers, the little bushings it came with. So let me show you. And if you don't get to this point, you can't do it. All right. So I got one tire on the van still, for my own protection. All right, one tire on the van. I got the van lifted on one side. I got the van supported with the jack stand. Now I'm gonna lift this arm right here to compress that shock. So I could try to get this top one out first. This is like 2 weeks old right now, so I'm gonna try to hold on to this, lube this up, and get this off. And then I'm gonna replace that with the original bushing. The original bushing it had was insulator bushings. Now the bushings they give you are tiny crappy bushings, so let me show you that right here. So these are the bushings they give you, top and bottom. Right, you're supposed to put the hole for the shock in there, and then these are the bushings. These are the factory bushings. Look at that difference. So I'm actually going to put these back on, but if you see the top, when you compress them together, there's a tongue and groove. I'm actually going to put this over the top, because that's the only thing that kind of metal is exposed before I put the original washer on the top, and the original washer can go on the bottom. So let me jack that other part up to show you what I'm talking about. Danger, Will Robinson, how I almost broke my hand changing shocks. So I have that lifted up with one jack, right? I put the other jack to lift up right here to get those off. And then what happened was I couldn't get them off, so I lowered the jack down to about right here, and I put my hands in to finish getting them off. Well, this whole control arm dropped and squeezed my hand between the jack that was here and the control arm. So I wanted to go into the emergency room for x-rays. So I'm gonna jack this control arm up again, but from a different angle to give me ways to reach these bolts right there. So, but before I do that, I'm gonna see if I can get this off right here. I'm gonna compress it. I'll put my jack right here, compress it, and WD-40 that, and try to get that off right there. Okay, so the other little shock didn't reach. That's why that tire's on over there, because I did this with both tires on last time. And when I went to go jack this control arm up, the van, I had it supported but shifted that way. So I'm probably gonna, I know when I lift this up, it may come off that jack right there. So I'm gonna get another jack stand to put in the center before I go any further to lift this. I'm compressing that shock to loosen that up. All right, so now I'm gonna compress this to lift this up, but when the control arm goes up, the van lifts up also. So now everything's gonna be resting on the control arm. What I'm doing right here is compressing the shock. Now it took weight off of that right there, so I'm gonna WD-40 that and then unscrew that. Okay, so that is a 14, and I but these are only 2 weeks old. So what I normally do when I can't get these off, you gotta be careful, is, see, I would take this off, or I cut it with a sawzall, a metal sawzall blade, and I just cut that off, scrape it around here, and that normally pops off. I'm trying to save all this because these are only 2 weeks old, but I'm getting jingles because these bushings are just too tiny, man. These bushings are horrendous. So we'll see when we put the new bushings on. Let me get this off. Now this is the OEM washer that I put on here, and that bushing was compressed all the way down. It just makes no damn sense that bushing is too tiny to put on a Chevy Express. So here's the bushing. So let's go back over here and see. And you see, it's metal. It's on the metal of the van. It's not holding anything or doing any purpose. That's why you need the insulator bushing. Now this is the insulator bushing. It goes up through the bottom of the van, and this is nylon, and it got a groove right here. But see, the top one is a little bit worn out. So what I'm going to do is I cut one of these old bushings in half and I'm gonna put on top of there. So that isolator bushing is actually what's holding out. These are made for that little rubber grommet, the little rubber top to go through it. But as you can see, there was nothing. So this top and the bottom is your bushing for your van. And this is the replacement crap that they give you, and this one was just squashed all the heck. And as you can see, the shock is hitting the metal right here. That's where my jingle is, because it's so tiny to go in between this. And they say, well, you're supposed to put those little rubber grommets in between here. It crushed all the way down. So this is suspended by another jack right here. So this is where I almost broke my hand last time. So underneath here is where I couldn't reach. So I lowered this jack and was doing it with my hands, and the shock was holding this up. So when I unscrewed it, this whole control arm came down and smashed my hand between the jack. So I got to get to that very gingerly. Now the bolts for your shocks you can see through here. So what I do is 2 days before I start working on them, I put the WD-40 on them to start going down and moistening up in between them. I do that 2 days before I normally do my shocks. Okay, now if I'm correct, these are 13 millimeters. Yep, 13 millimeters. So you gotta unloosen these. But last time I did this is when I almost broke my hand. I over tightened them. I didn't know what the specs were, so I know I over tightened them, but you see I'm still able to get it out super easy. This one's a little bit angled. Hopefully I can get it out without stripping it. I got an extra one on hand. I'll give you the part number on these. Now with this supported, the shock should come straight down. The shock should come straight down. Hopefully I could get it out with the jack there. I replace them, so if you're doing your shocks, replace these screws. So it's coming down as I'm unscrewing it off, so I'm just trying to hold it up with the other hand as I'm taking that off. Now everything's supported. I got two jack stands, one jack for the frame, one jack for the control arm. Lifting the control arm up, taking all the pressure off of the shock. And there's your shock, but let me show you the bottom of this. Get out here. This is the little bushing that it gives you, and you can see it was already compressed all the way down. This is bull crap. And replace your screws because they completely rust out right here. Okay, so that is supposed to meet and exceed OEM spectrum. Now let me show you OEM. That's OEM spectrum. So it is crazy that those little things are supposed to do the job. So the bottom bushing's on. It's still compressed with the shock. So I'm gonna push it up through there, get this in the hole, and then push the screws in. Now I may have to, oh, it is compressed. Compress it a little bit more to make sure I get this grommet on really good. All right, so I'm gonna have to drop the control arm a little bit because I cannot reach, the shock's not compressed and I cannot reach these. Well, let me see if I can with the bolts, and then if I can just bring it up. The bolts are super long. I'll show you the aftermarket bolts. Yeah, I'll be able to get them up. Before I tighten them all the way down, I want to make sure the other one is coming out of the top. Don't strip these. The threads for these are actually in the control arm, so don't strip these. Make sure they're on right. If one's too tight, loosen the other one up to make sure they're both on straight. Alright, before you tighten those all the way up, you get up here and you look. You see, that rod is not hitting that at all. That is perfect. So now I could tighten the other one up. That other stuff is bull crap. All right, these are on, but they're tight, but not torqued to specs yet. They're not torqued down yet. So I'm gonna come back up to the top. And look how stable and solid that is right there. I mean, this is not moving. There's no metal on metal. So I gotta put the other grommet on the top now. Now with this bushing, it's open on the bottom, so it could go all the way over that, right? So now it's on that, and the other part doesn't stick through here, so that's good. So now I can start tightening this one. I cut these off because I was gonna put this on top because I thought the metal part was gonna stick through here. But with the thickness of this right here, the metal part don't stick through that. So now I could get the other washer. So, so now there's enough treads for you to get this top one on that you can start tightening this. But remember, this was completely crushed, like all the way from the washer to the frame with the other bushing. These bushings are so much thicker, so I'm gonna start squeezing that one. And the other one, there's a lot of room between the bottom grommet and the bottom thing. You know what, let me tell you this though, these are thinner than these on the bottom, so I'm gonna flip them over and put the wider one on the top and the lower one. All right, after revisiting the situation, I do realize the bigger one was on top. And you know why I say that? Because I use a sawzall to get them off, and I realized there's a sawzall cut on the other washer, and I'll show you. All right, so I'm taking this off right here. I'm taking it all the way off right now, then I'm going to show you the difference. All right, so when I cut my shocks off, I cut them off from the top. Sawzall blades, no sawzall blades. This one was on the top, the smaller one was on the bottom. So this is how I'm going to put it back in. Now truthfully, this is a lot less warped, so more than likely this was in like this, and this was the bottom, right? But I'm putting this in through the bottom with the smaller washer, because I know the smaller one was in there, and that's coming into the bottom. And then this bigger washer with this right here is going in through the top, because I know I did cut this right here. Either way it goes, these are the ones they gave you new. They fit inside the other ones. These are the ones they gave you new. They fit inside the other ones. And don't just bog one all the way down and the other one all the way long. Do them little by little so it could be even going up. Alright, so Bob's your uncle. Now I've got no chance of bumping around or hitting around anything making that noise. Oh, that was driving me nuts. Now if you can see in here, there's the little things that go right inside there, the little grommets that go right inside there. You gotta find your space and then push them down. And then you can put the top on and push it down a little bit more, or screw the bottom up so get some more tread on there, or push it down to get the screw on. Alright, I was able to compress the bushing enough by hand to get the screw started. Now you can just tighten this all the way down. You see the bushing already starting to compress. This bushing up top is not going to make the noise. The bushing on the bottom was the one making the noise, and this right here was hitting the metal, and the middle part of the shock was hitting the metal. So these right here on the Chevy Express 1500, I'm putting the original bushings back on because the new ones were crap. They sell them new ones, but for the set I think it was a 45 bucks, but for these right here they're still good. So I'm putting these back on, and then this right here, I'm just tightening this down where it's snug. And the bottom one, I gotta find the foot pounds, but honestly last time I over tightened them. Look up the foot pounds yourself. I don't want to give you the wrong foot pounds, but look at the foot pounds. But I just tightened them down where I felt they were tight enough, but they're so thin if you tighten them too much, you're gonna break them. Now I got aftermarket grade 8s because if you're just changing them for the first time, they're gonna be rusted out. Do not try putting them back on. Just buy new ones. And they're Dorman M8 by 125 by 40. 6 of them came in here, but buy the washers with them because you need the washer too. Let me finish tightening this up. Okay, I didn't realize I had time lapse on this video right here. So this is the time lapse and I'm tightening down the bushing right here. But you tighten it all the way down, the bushing will start to squeeze and then it will tell you when it cannot move anymore. So you tighten it all the way down till that can't move anymore and then give it another couple turns. Now right here, I have it compressed with the jack. So now I'm going to go underneath and I'm going to tighten those. I still don't know what the specs are. I just tightened the crap out of those. And then after that, I'll go ahead and lower the jack. Alright, before I put them back up there again, let me explain this to you. This is the aftermarket shock bushing. Alright? The ones that go on it are actually called shock isolators, shock isolator bushings, and this is how they go. So it's a huge difference. And then these got grommets that fit right inside the other one with this on the top. With this on the top. So would you rather that or that? Shock isolator bushings. I'm just putting the original ones back on. The aftermarket, I don't know if they go, it didn't look like, I couldn't tell if it slid over this like these do, so that's why I'm putting these back on. And there you go. Before you torque it back down, make sure the nylon part is coming up, and that's why you don't get no rattle, no jingle, no jangle like the other crap that's there. Just the pole comes through there. These are the ones I put on. 91255. While you're doing it anyways, change your bolts. M8 1.25 40mm hex bolts and get the washers.